Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for spending your Saturday morning with us. Welcome to the fourth Urban Talk webinar by Perekabandar. This is our first webinar for the year 2021. Before we start, I would like to promote Perekabandar's National Urban Design Awards on NUDA. So the purpose of this award is to recognize urban design projects of the highest quality and to encourage cities, towns and communities across the country to strive for the best practice in all projects. The National Urban Design Awards also acknowledge the importance and impact of inter- and multidisciplinary teams in the livability of Malaysian cities and the sustainability of the communities. We encourage the submission of multidisciplinary projects involving planners, landscape architects, and other disciplines as well. The awards offer the opportunity to receive prestigious national recognition from a jury of experts in urban design. The award recipients will receive feature media coverage in Perekabandar publication and website as well as in the local press. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we are revising the deadline, but this is still to be decided, but it would most likely be after Raya, so potentially in late May or June. But for more information, you can find the post about it on the Perekabandar's Facebook page, or you can visit our website, perekabandar.org.my. All right, so back to our webinar. The title of our webinar this morning is Urban Design by the People, for the People, Making People-Friendly Cities in Malaysia. We've got a fantastic lineup of panelists this morning. Dr. Azmizam Rashid, who is the Deputy CEO of Urbanist, Madam Kusalma Nasution, who is a formidable social activist, and Mr. Rahmat Bayudi, a community organizer with a background in architecture. Moderating the webinar is none other than Dr. Suhana Samsudin, our president. Before we start, I would like to remind everybody watching on Facebook that we will share an attendance form, and you will receive an e-certificate if you fill this in. You can also type your questions in the chat box, and we will share them with the panelists. With that, I wish you a fruitful session. Over to you, Dr. Suhana. You're mute. You're on mute.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all everybody who has joined us this morning. The title of our webinar has already been mentioned by Dr. Azrin. I would just like to spend a bit to explain why we are organizing this seminar for this topic. In the past, we have been discussing about issues relating to urban design involving professionals. But when the issues of sustainable development came into force for quite some time now, and sustainable development is already a buzzword, the Sustainable Development Goal, as put forward by the United Nations, emphasized on the sustainable cities and sustainable communities as one of the goals that have to be acquired in order for us to have sustainable development. And we are talking, when you talk about sustainable communities, it's about getting people to be involved in to have the community engagement and to have the empowerment to the community to be involved in the environment that they are living in, not just to be on the receiving end to the kind of environment that has been planned or designed for them. So we thought that with this current issue, we wanted to look, how does Malaysia perform, in the sense of how are we in how do we stand in getting the people to be involved in their environment, and how do we stand in terms of making the environment people friendly. Probably you will be aware that end of last year, during the Malaysian Urban Forum, the Prime Minister has called for our cities to be age and gender friendly. This is actually an important call from our Prime Minister, so that we actually consider how our cities can be friendly to the weaker sex, which is the when you talk about gender friendly, it's always the women who will be more vulnerable. in terms of safety in the cities, and also for the aging society. Those who are, if you notice that we are already, and we are not yet into age, but we are already entering into aging society where we have more senior citizens in using the cities as well as people with disabled. So how are we cities friendly to them? So to with our lineup of panelists that will be discussing these issues, more not from the design perspective, but from people who are already being involved in trying to get the community to to participate in the way the cities are being planned. So our first panelist will be someone who will be representing those who are in the government and the public sector, somebody who has already been working in trying to get the communities to be involved in getting the works that's the development. Dr. Azmizam, who is actually the Deputy CEO and Head of Knowledge Platform and Partnership in Urbanist Malaysia. Now, Urbanist Malaysia is a center of excellence for sustainable cities and urban well-being under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, where he holds a PhD in development science. And if you look at his experience, more than 25 years experience, he is now very much into getting this sustainable development agenda in the country to be implemented. And he has been involved in the Malaysia SDG Cities Roadmap, implementation of the new urban agenda, and the Malaysia Cities Preparedness for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He has also been involved in the sustainability assessment for projects and programs, Sustainable City and Healthy City program. His research on urban governance and sustainable cities has been published widely in the local and international journals. With that, I would pose the first question to Dr. Azmizam. In view of your experience in this, how do you see the design of our cities can be improved to make it friendlier to the people, especially now with the post-pandemic, where we have another problem in our hand? Over to you, Dr. Azmizam.
Terima kasih Prof. Suhana. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Thank you for inviting me to talk the another group's expertise on urban design. But today we're going to talk not just about sustainable city, how is our achievement on urbanization via sustainable development goals. I'm not talking about the whole perspective, but I will touch a little bit on that. But today, I'd like to discuss how our friendly cities been impact, how the pandemic effect to the design our build environment, especially to our proposed now, as mentioned by Prof. Suhana, but the highlighted during Malaysia Urban Forum by our Prime Minister about the focus on age and gender friendly city. Let me share with you, all the viewers today and all other panelists, how we see the pandemic, the current situation on the pandemic impact to our built environment. I'd like to summarize about almost a year we are in the situation on pandemic. I'd like to share with you how is our current situation now. The current situation now is how the rapid urbanization is resulting in the growing number of all over the world talk about the slum dweller, the issue and the creates of overburdened infrastructure services and impact of the air pollution. Now with the scenario 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic definitely hit the hardest and more, almost 1 billion slum, actually not a slum, but the urban dwellers in worldwide, include Malaysia, who suffer from the lack of, not just a lack of housing, no running water at home, public toilet, sanitation, no proper waste management, is overcrowded public transports. Thus, we need urgent plan needed to prepare and respond relate to the outbreaks in the formal settlement in urban area. Uh, the governments, like our ministry and other government, Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Health, and other industry, look are very serious how the current governance structure, strategy, investment of how our daily operation activities include product and services, the needs of various stakeholders to align with the sustainable development goals. Because the trend could be easily stalled in urban setting become the impact of the COVID-19, which target like a crowded city, not just Malaysia, like Milan, New York's direct challenge to achieve SDG number 11. That means cities and sustainable community. The COVID-19 pandemic has already significantly altered our urban life. The number of people moving around has dropped unprecedentedly low level. We last year, most our people, we work from home has a new normal for those who can afford it, even visible option to begin with. The fate of millions and small businesses and workers make urban centers work up the change as spark debate about how cities could be built, and perhaps more important, they can better respond to the current, the future crisis. As I showed in Prof. Swana in this slide, the first slide, it showed us how is our affect design urbanisms tell the whole story. The results recall an urgent effort to further explore how urban our built environment towards the friendly city. We cannot wait any longer and to face another pandemic to serve. This I call it is a reminder. The wake up call that must be parallel to other sustainable approach that if we can manage it, our present environment will continue serve as well and friendly to others, that mentioned as earlier on age and gender friendly city. Lastly, my point, Prof. The COVID-19 pandemics has caused serious consequences that can be opportunity. It's not an obstacle to us, but I think it's an opportunity. Us as a planners, urban designer, engineer, or other professional to review individuals or collective choice and priorities. Most of us, we think about built environment today shows evidence of how humans have responded the infection disease by redesigning our physical spaces, such as we now concerned about our social distancing, could change the design and planning process, specifically with the increased acceptance of distance learning, online shopping, culture connection, online entertainment. The use of media information sharing, like we have now almost in a year, webinar for sharing knowledge and expertise have been widespread option during the post-COVID-19. For that, I stop now, Prof. Suhana.
Okay, thank you
Maybe
very much. Yeah.
other panelists will give that. Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Doctor.
Thank you very much for keeping to the time. You're just spot on time. Our second panelist is a long time friend. I've known her for quite some time, since the days before Georgetown and Malacca received its World Heritage status. Ku Salma Nasution is the immediate past president and vice president of Penang Heritage Trust. She's also the co-founder and commissioning editor of Arika Books, which focus on social history, cultural heritage, visual arts, architecture, and environment. She's an author and co-author of umpteen books, but one of her books actually received quite an excellent uh, um, award for the book that she wrote on the Chulia in Penang, patronage and placemaking around the Kapitan Kling Mosque, which is the winner of the International Convention of Asia Scholars ICAS Book Prize 2015. Sama is also the former city councillor in the Penang local authority from 2017 mid 2018, where she represented Penang Forum. She's now the president of Jaringan Ekologi dan Iklim, aptly called JEDI, which focus on championing for the climate and ecology, founded in 2020. But with all her credentials, she is very well known as a social activist, still passionate about voicing the interest of the public on matters that involves the public with regards to the effect of development. So with that, can I pose the first question to Salma? Is she around?
Yeah, she's on
Yeah.
mute.
Huh?
I'm just playing a video in the background without any
Okay.
sound.
So right. Okay. Hi, Salma. Thank you so much for being on board. I mean, initially she declined, but I managed to persuade her to to join us today. Salma, my first question is actually very aptly posed to you, because what are the challenges that you face as a social activist to ensure that the public's voice is heard in decisions involving city building that are of interest to the local people? This is a very general question, just to get people who are really not aware of what you're building in the past, to really get to know you. To get to know you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
So,
As you can see, I'm showing a video in the background because I don't want to take too much of your time. But this video is about a city park, which is it's called Taman Jajar Sungai Ara, and it's actually a river bank, and it's at the top part of the river. It's one of the cleanest rivers in Malaysia, and it's actually the community itself that transformed the park into a garden, and the river is, and they keep the river clean, and it's really very nice. But there's a plan to build a highway over it. So since we're talking about urban design for the people and all that, you can see that urban designers try to introduce nature into urban settings, and this is something that is really done by the people. And because it's very what do you call it? It's a river, so it's using nature in a very intensive way, because they're gardening. They have an urban garden, urban farm, small scale, by the river. So the community just goes there and uses it very intensively. And so this community organizers are very dynamic, and they I just giving their example how they got this park to the attention of the authorities. Basically, they wrote to the authorities, and then there was no reply. Then after, I don't know, maybe 10 times or 50 times, then they wrote to authorities and copied to all the press. So then immediately they got a reply. So this has been going on for a few years, and they have managed to get the community involved, and people come from all around. Even the Jabatan Pertanian will come and visit this place and see it as a model of urban farming. So this is really people sort of regenerating the space around them. And I want to talk about the 15-minute city, because that's why we started on something called, I'm with the Penang Forum also, so we started on this thing called the Penang Transport Master Plan, because really through urban transport is, if you have good urban transport, then you have mobility, and mobility for everyone. That means not just the rich people with cars, but even poor people, and the spouses, or who if you have a one-car family, and the children and the elderly people can get around. And so this 15-minute city is a very important idea, because it means that people have access to amenities and facilities and commercial centers, and you're not marginalized because of where you live. So this, of course, this Machete's constant. It just says that even, looking from ancient history, the city would only grow when people can get around it in 15 minutes or 15 minutes to half an hour. So as the technology improve, so the cities grow. And now that we have, if you have train, we have budget flights, people live somewhere and then they have a dormitory city for the weekend, right? So you have urban spatial structures. You have a classical monocentric model, which is what we are living with. And I think the government's mind is usually about classical monocentric model. And then you also have polycentric model, but a bit unplanned. It's like a kind of urban sprawl or composite model. But this urban village model, as you can see, it says people live next to their place of employment. People can walk or bicycle to work. This model exists only in the minds of planners. It is never encountered in real life. Is that true? Yes, I think, you know, urban designers, planners, they're thinking of this urban village model, but it doesn't exist, or it's very idealistic. Okay, this is the vision of the mayor of Paris, which is basically to make it people can walk, they can cycle, is to ecologically transform the city. So you have nature, you have not the city in the park, but the eyes on the street, like Jane Jacobs said. And if you look at job density, this is actually very key to planning for cities, because we can design very ideal environments, but where are the jobs? So the jobs are somewhere else. If you are talking about kind of very suburban kind of development, so the job density in Malaysia is not very high, and in Georgetown it's very, very, very low. So why is it that we need to expand? I mean, talking about the case of Penang, why do we need to reclaim 3 islands? This is really urban sprawl, but it's not recognized as urban sprawl because nobody calls it that, but it is urban sprawl. And it's the politicians' mind is like they cannot even imagine a compact city, but how do you create real estate? So create real estate through reclamation. So then you have problems of, these are the ideas that capture the politician's imagination. Okay, and if you look at this city, maybe it could work on the ground. We don't know. Okay, they have rooftop, or very idealistic, all the rooftops covered with grass and all that. And but it's part of a reclaimed island. So if you look, can you see this part? This is the real Telok Kumbar, and the fishermen living here, and they will be confronted with these 3 islands. So as urban designers, you may try to, if you plan it on an empty piece of paper, then you say that, okay, I'll make this work on the ground. It will be ideal. It'll be green and smart and all that. But the reality is that there are fishermen staying here, and they're planning to build a hostel here for 35,000 people. And then they're planning to build a highway through this valley. It's like a 6-lane highway through this. And this 6-lane highway is mainly to serve the new population, which doesn't even exist yet, but they're projecting 400,000 people, and also to serve the 35,000 worker hostel, so that all the bus kilang can go up and down. So this is the reality of planning. It's not an ideal situation. It's not on a blank piece of paper. And these are the real people who are actually fighting just to be recognized as, the basic humanity, for the basic humanity, that they have needs, they have, a community, they have a home that they want to protect, and they have a fishing ground where they find the mencari rezeki, right? And this is the reality when, a workers' dormitory is built, not very far away in Batu Maung, is that for every dormitory that is first of all, it's very concentrated. So you have a high number of all the COVID cases. So when you see the Penang COVID cases, many of them are in foreign workers hostels, and you have the bus kilang going back and forth, which actually this is so why not have the foreign workers? Yes, they are with us, but in a more decentralized way next to where they work. And okay, so these are so anyway, so this is the design competition lah. So design competition may actually look good, but I would encourage you to actually take into consideration a more extended timeline, because the narrative of the place is actually constructed through the past. So for example, if there is an Orang Asli community and that place is totally wiped out, and then then they built this very idealistic kind of green looking housing area, and call it something like, I don't know, Kensington Gardens, or some foreign name usually. And that wipes out the memory of the people who used to be there. So how do we get our voices heard? Actually, as an NGO, we have been kind of shouting in a bubble, and it's I think not very effective, because we'll just be labeled and then just put away. So urban designers can also be the mediators, they can be facilitators, and go directly to the community. And when you have a design competition, the ethics must be part of that design competition, so that you look at the memory of that place, and not just design in a vacuum. Okay, that was my contribution.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sama. That
Thank
was
you.
very interesting. Actually I did make some comments about the competition in our website. If you want to look at, you want to look how we actually felt about the winning entry. Okay, let's move to the third panelist, which is Mr. Rahmat Bayudi, Vice President of Perekabandar. And how do you describe this person? I think he graduated with architecture and urban design from London and Oxford, UK, and has lots of working experience as an architect in UK and in Malaysia before he joined the University of Malaya. But what he does now is very interesting, because I would describe him as professional volunteerism. Because if you look at the long list of his involvement with the community as a volunteer, yeah, he is very professional at being. That's why I call him like a professional volunteer, because he really enjoyed working with the communities, getting them engaged with their environment, and sort of being like a mediator with the local authority. So, which is actually, we need many more people like him, but it's very challenging. I feel when I look at his long list of his involvement with the public, I think with the committee, one is being the chief volunteer of Bukit Jelutong Eco Community Group, uh, as well as being even an advisory panel member to a Yayasan Tafiz. And I think his involvement with the committee is very extensive. So we're very happy to have him to join us to share his experience with getting the community and public involved with the way the cities are being designed. So my first question to Mr. Rahmat is, how do you see the role of the urban designer in facilitating the community to be involved in creating an environment that meet their needs? Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sahana. Thank you for the eulogy. I think is overemphasized there. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, selamat pagi. I'm nobody. Actually, Dr. Azmizam and Kusama is my idol lah in this context. I'm trying to get as much done within the sort of contextual framework provided by the first and the second panel today. MashaAllah, I think Dr. Azmizam has put up a kind of a very comprehensive picture of how our urban situations, our urban environment has been put together, especially within the context of the pandemic now. A lot of things has been disrupted, and we also looking at it as an opportunities. I mean, with Kusalma's sort of activism being put to test, and now looking at what she had done in Penang is an amazing transformation of many sort of local parts and local areas involving people in the same. So I'm not sure we can answer that directly, but I think the role of urban designers in facilitating community already been sort of demonstrated earlier. I think firstly is to make aware that urbanization, the whole thing about urban environment, if you refer to people like, one of my early influences would be Aldo Rossi. It's a human achievement par excellence. So it's a human achievement, even though the description is pretty much a kind of a product of a process, development process, of buildings, infrastructures, and so on. And in a way, death of aspects of humans. So, still a human settlement. where it provides employment and not to forget mobilization, the way we move around. And this complex coexistence of multiple tangible and intangible functionalities that has to be put together is a complex matter. But I think that is where urban designers can, in our practice, we use, I think in our earlier discussion, Dr. Suhana mentioned workshops or charrette, usually involving all players and stakeholders of a specific process, whichever that is, whether it's building the local mosque or looking at how a highway is affecting our environment, like what's happening in Sumayara, and also other form of, I like some of the pictures that Salma put up just now, where the workers saying about what they eat and compared to what their bosses eat and things. These are, I think, signs of how our society is maturing into wanting more or wanting more actions or proper actions on how environment is being managed, and specifically the role of local council or local authorities. Uh, this process of what urban designers do must be made visible. I mean, we've seen now various engagement via focus discussion groups or any other workshops held by many players, and now the involvement of many NGOs into the foray. I think that's a very positive thing. So this process, this workshop or charrette, should be very visible, should be eminent in its function, and also strongly encourage. And in the respective of one aspect I like to grow interest in is the urban design guidelines for each towns or settlements under the guise of the local authority. I think we've not, I mean, I'm not sure whether we haven't forgotten, obviously, but the public out there need to be known, make known that urban design guidelines is crucial in the way we try to improve the quality of our environment from the urban design perspective. Urban designer to I mean, our role is to take up a leading role in facilitating this workshop or charrette, whether it is by appointment, whether it is by action, activism, whether it is by any form, whatever means, and what Dr. Suhana described just now, professional volunteerism. I actually have another term for people in the public office, civil service, who are also actively engaging with the community, some sort of advocacy planning or some sort of public activism. I think these are things that we need to get accustomed to, used to. There is a specific effort also to be made to obtain all the relevant database and information to be able to be made public, spatial configurations, demographic database, and behavioral pattern, inclusive of all sorts of socio-cultural materials to enable better decision making. I think Salma earlier on talks about narrative from where a place actually gain its existence, sense of belonging, sense of place, and sense of space. These needs to be addressed, and also being part of. I think recently we were talking about NFT, how that can be part of our database, talking about places, especially when you have a local or historical or culturally significant context. Without I actually have a few things to share via slides, and I hope I can be allowed to do so, demonstrating our effort in our neighborhood now where I am to engage with the community in nurturing this sense of belongings. It started during the MCO. Due to COVID-19, we don't go anywhere, but we need to find somewhere local that we can do positive thing for the benefit of community. And I'd like to share this slide at the moment. I think it's already on. And just hope we can see it. Yeah, can I get a feedback from the panels here? Are we seeing the slides?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is a little project. It won't be long. Called Bukit Jelutong Eco Community Park. Interestingly, this is started by a group of volunteers, by myself and a few, mostly retiree. So during pandemic, we can't go anywhere. So we need to find somewhere in the neighborhood that we can do good, something that we can be positively engaging with. When we look at the first bit, is a place that was described as the term Paradesa. Paradesa means a garden. I think it's an Iranian word. And what that is, essentially a reserve, TNB reserve intersecting with a JPS reserve. So again, it's a complex relationship. You need to deal with all layers of authorities to get this thing going. And I think this effort is not new. It's been going on for nearly 10 years since it started as a kebun, and now it's becoming like a lake. Really, really brilliant, nice fish in there, plus some other animals that we kept. Um, Without going through it, it's located adjacent to Taman Botani Negara Malaysia, but it's on the obviously on the reserve side. We got visitors from all over the place now since the MCO. That's pretty much the location. If you look at access from the road, it's actually via ramp that goes down to the JPS kind of maintenance reserve. But this area here is actually Bukit Cherakah, and that's actually in line with the PNB pylons, where that is a reserve area under the pylons. And that's where the lake is now enlarged from what was to be an earth drain. It's now enlarged by the custodian, the Megat Fairuz, and with efforts made from many contributions from many parties. And that has been sort of recently created a group called Rangers to help manage this. This is where creating the sense of belonging in the community, giving a group of about 40 people now looking after this place at weekends, especially when there are a lot of visitors coming, and most of them needs to be sort of managed, or some sort of crowd control that happens over, especially during the MCO. Some general rules. We do a chart for it. These are some members of the group. Some are old, some are young, which is great. I think this is what we need to create in the community, to see that by creating that sense of belonging of a place, we can do wonder stuff. Now the group not only look after Paradesa, they're also looking after other places in the vicinity that created, sense of friendship and opwa and all that. And of course, if you notice, everybody wearing mask, and we are SOP compliance. We need to obviously enter this place. You need to do your my sejatra, body temperature, and all the necessary stuff. But we also have a special day tomorrow. It's a Go Green Day, and if you notice, part of the whole thing is about encouraging or empowering community to be ecologically literate. So they need to be aware of how what their action is in the local can affect a global perspective, like throwing uh, rubbish into your drain and it goes into the river like this, it goes into the ocean and it caught some fish, some problems. So we have a session tomorrow, in fact. I think panel members here are invited to come to have a session with a group of volunteers and the BJEC Rangers. I think I will stop there because that's the next part. And I would probably just say to enable that sense of belonging in the community, to create a sense of space, to create a sense of, time and all that, we'll need to have that effort to meet again with the community, put the effort together. And the workshop, the charrette, we have conducted that in multiple times and multiple ways. It's not necessarily in a room or in a hall. It can be done over a coffee. It can be done over in the case that we have, there's a beautiful lake next to us, so it's a pretty good setting for such charrette and workshops. That's all. Thank you, Dr. Swan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamid. I think this is an excellent example of how the community can actually uh, create an environment that is of benefit to them with their own effort, and with professionals like Mr. Rahmat, being the enabler, to get or the dreams to come true. Okay, we are going to the next round of the session, where we are going back to Dr. Asnizam. Why? My question is, what is the main problem? I mean, we're talking just now about, the Prime Minister's call for cities to be age and gender friendly. What do you think is the main problem in getting the cities to meet the needs of the community, in actually for us to achieve this target of getting people friendly cities?
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
My point is, we see cities normally provide essential programs, services, amenities, not from the adults or youth, but it's from the young children, as well as the senior citizens, and also the or the family. I call it cities for age 8 to 80s. I think the local government are tasked with delivery services, constructing. They have provide daycare services, constructing playgrounds, and managing transportation network, which essentially to the healthy development from the young kids, children, to the to the senior citizen, and also the group of family. These municipal responsibles provides that really does checks not just in the cities but also in the rural area, the village, how we raise our kids. This is the way how we develop the city, is the way how we raise our children. Far too often, however, some our city leaders, maybe the policymakers or others, maybe the developer, is not. I'm not talking about the neglect to engage, but maybe less engage with the young children and the senior citizen to ensure the city decision making reflects the needs of these particular groups. Like town halls meeting to discuss, maybe weekly or monthly, to discuss a new development or major infrastructure projects are common. Uh, these conversations rarely happen in setting or formats that are appropriate to invite feedback and meaningful inputs from our kids and from the senior citizen, maybe the group of family. Meaningful community engagement in an only way to ensure the voice of these vulnerable group populations are considered in the city building process. This is especially important for citizens below. Uh, is I think I'm consider is uh, development partners for the cities who have no other means to shaping the world around them. The concept I mentioned just now, 8 to 80 cities, believe that cities are better when they are created to meet the needs of young children and senior citizens. Like they know they maybe the daily use of the sidewalk, long wait time for buses or street without benches are inconvenient for everyone, but can safely limit the freedoms of mobility for our children's senior citizen with the stroller or young senior citizen with mobility device. When we create separated and connected bike lanes that are safe for children to use, we create a cycling network that works for all residents. When we design the streetscape to accommodate resting place for senior citizens with benches and shade, we create inviting public space for everyone to enjoy. And its core engaging young children, kids, family in the city buildings about extending the freedoms of mobility and the accessibility of a public space for everyone. My last point, Prof, um, actually we wanted to understand how cities in our area, maybe in, I mean our neighbors cities, other cities in our neighborhoods area, are tackling this challenge to ensure the voice of our children's senior citizens are represented in their built environment, in their confined development. Through our own work as a community engagement, especially like us, urban planners, designer, engineer, we know there is a critical gap in knowledge and research on this topic. I think for that, Prof, I think this work began with extensive background research and depth interview with leading practitioners in the field to discover existing resource of knowledge. For that, Prof, I end my second question, and then I leave it to other speakers to continue the views on this challenge of develop friendly, uh, making our city more friendly. Thank you, Prof. You're
Uh,
mute, Prof.
you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Okay. Yeah. Steve, am I right now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nizam. So we go next to the second panelist because I will wrap up towards the end on all the interesting points that has been highlighted. To Salma, I think just now you have mentioned about, I can sense your frustration when many of the grievances that has been put forward, with on issues regarding certain in sensitive development towards the people's needs are just put on deaf ears, like shouting the bubbles, that is really, really frustrating. So how could authorities facilitate a better engagement with the local people,